Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. I am your faithful Raven, and today we shall be reading Azura and the Box, Ancient Tales of the Dwemer, Part 11, by Marabar Sul. Nikilbar had enjoyed an adventurous youth, but had grown to be a very wise, very old Dwemer, who spent his life searching for the truth and dispelling superstitions. He invented much and created many theorems and logic structures that bore his name. But much of the world still puzzled him, and nothing was a greater enigma to him than the nature of the Azura and Daedra. Over the course of his research, he came to the conclusion that many of the gods were entirely fabricated by man and Mer. Nothing, however, was a greater question to Nikilbar than the limits of divine power. Were the greater beings the masters of the entire world, or did the humbler creatures have the strength to forge their own destinies? As Nikilbar found himself nearing the end of his life, he felt he must understand this last basic truth. Among the sage's acquaintances was a holy Chimera priest named Athenic. When the priest was visiting Thalag Thurams, Nikilbar told him what he intended to do to find the nature of divine power. Athenic was terrified and pleaded with his friend not to break this great mystery, but Nikilbar was resolute. Finally, the priest agreed to assist out of love for his friend, though he feared the results of this blasphemy. Athenic summoned Azura. After the usual rituals by which the priest declared his faith in her powers, and Azura agreed to do no harm to him. Nikilbar and a dozen of his students entered the summoning chamber, carrying with them a large box. "As we see you in our land, Azura, you are the goddess of the dusk and dawn, and all the mysteries therein," said Nikilbar, trying to appear as kindly and obsequious as he could be. "It is said that your knowledge is absolute." "So it is," smiled the Daedra. "You would know, for example, what is in this box," said Nikilbar. Azura turned to Athenic, her brow furrowed. The priest was quick to explain. "Goddess, this Dwemer is a very wise and respected man. Believe me, please, the intention is not to mock your greatness, but to demonstrate to this scientist and to the rest of his skeptical race. I have tried to explain your power to him, but his philosophy is such that he must see it demonstrated. If I am to demonstrate my might in a way to bring the Dwemer race to understanding, it might have been a more impressive feat you would have me do," growled Azura, and turned to look Nikilbar in the eyes. "There is a red-petaled flower in the box." Nikilbar did not smile or frown. He simply opened the box and revealed to all that it was empty. When the students turned to look to Azura, she was gone. Only Athenic had seen the goddess's expression before she vanished, and he could not speak. He was trembling so. A curse had fallen. He knew that truly, but even crueler was the knowledge of divine power that had been demonstrated. Nikilbar also looked pale, uncertain on his feet, but his face shone with not fear, but bliss, the smile of a Dwemer finding evidence for truth only suspected. 2 of his students supported him, and 2 more supported the priest as they left the chamber. "I have studied very much over the years, performed countless experiments, taught myself 1,000 languages, And yet the skill that has taught me the finally truth is the one that I learned when I was but a poor young man, trying only to have enough gold to eat," whispered the sage. As he was escorted up the stairs to his bed, a red flower petal fell from the sleeve of his voluminous robe. Nikilbar died that night, a portrait of peace that comes from contented knowledge. Publisher's note. This is another tale whose origin is unmistakably Dwemer. Again, the words of some Aldmeri translations are quite different, but the essence of the story is the same. The Dunmer have a similar tale about Nikilbar, but in the Dunmer version, Azura recognizes the trick and refuses to answer the question. She slays the Dwemer present for their skepticism and curses the Dunmer for blasphemy. In the Aldmeri versions, Azura is tricked not by an empty box, but by a box containing a sphere which somehow becomes a flat square. Of course, the Aldmeri versions, being a few steps closer to the original Dwemer, are much more difficult to understand. Perhaps this stage magic explanation was added by Gore Felim because of Felim's own experience with such tricks in his plays when a mage was not available. Marabar Sul left even the character of Nikilbar alone, and he represents many Dwemer virtues. His skepticism, while not nearly as absolute as in the Aldmeri versions, is celebrated even though it brings a curse upon the Dwemer and the unnamed house of the poor priest. Whatever the true nature of the gods, and how right or wrong the Dwemer were about them, this tale might explain why the dwarves vanish from the face of Tamriel. Though Nikilbar and his kind may not have been intended to mock the Aedra and Daedra, their skepticism certainly offended the divine orders. This story strikes me particularly as an agnostic atheist and as a skeptic. It makes zero sense to conclude that the gods and spirits of the world are false when you are given direct, observable, and scientific proof that they exist. It makes even less sense to try and test and embarrass one when you know full well of their power and temper. I understand the kind of curiosity felt by this Dwemer, but to try something like that with a being that has the power to destroy me and all of my pieces is not a very smart idea. Despite chastising him, I must say that I find a lot of myself in Nikilbar, the part that seeks the absolute truth no matter where it leads me, not the part, however, of laughing in the face of proven fact and established knowledge. The Chimer in this book is what the Dunmer, or Dark Elves, used to be before they were cursed. Chimer means chained ones, and Dunmer means dark ones. The Dwemer, however, means deep ones. They no longer exist on Tamriel, having disappeared mysteriously centuries ago. They were a race of brilliant subterranean scientists, inventors, mages, and engineers who were responsible for all of the magnificent automatons found in the Dwemer ruins. The multiple translations that the story has gone through is apparent in the real world. The internal biases and ideas of the adapter often permeates the finished work. We see it often in fairy tales in the real world, and indeed in recollections that have been passed from person to person across the years. Azura is a great Daedric prince. She is greatly respected by the Dunmer. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'm not going to ask you to subscribe or anything, because you're going to do your own thing.